Welcome back to the Four Method Podcast. I'm your host, Austen Smith. Today's episode is one of those conversations that reminds you why relationships matter. And this episode goes into the stuff you only learn when you slow down and really ask. We talk about family, where he grew up, and what shaped him early on, and the lessons he learned from two very different parents. We talk about commitment, what it takes to build a marriage that lasts, and how he thinks about partnership and the intentional choices he made before becoming a husband and a dad. We talk about recreation and passion, why music matters to him, and how songwriting became part of his life, and how he's used live music to bring people together and support real causes here in Austin. We go deep on impact and what it means to help people and what service looks like when it's not performative, in a powerful conversation around teen mental health and community support and building a lifelong legacy. This episode isn't about titles. It's about the human behind the name and the kind of life you build when you lead with purpose. Let's jump in with David Schneider. David, welcome to the Four Method Podcast. How are you today?
Austin, thank you so much. I'm doing great. It's a beautiful day in Austin, Texas.
When I was, wanting to start this podcast, I was like, all right, here are all the people I want to bring in. People they're in real estate with outside of real estate, but ultimately people who have a great story and people who are making a significant impact in their industry or with their business. And so, thank you for being one of my first on here.
I'm honored. Honestly, when you first approached me with this, I thought that would be amazing. I've enjoyed our collaboration and partnership and what you and Tony are doing to help this industry with education and give back. I think it's phenomenal. So honored to be here. Excited to share what I can.
Awesome. Well, let's jump into it. So, this is the Four Method Podcast. We talk about your family, your occupation, your recreation, and your motivation. So let's talk about the family first. So ultimately, where did you grow up?
Born in New York City, Queens, New York. Moved pretty soon after, and that was 1970, which will date me. But when I was 3 years old, moved to Houston, Texas, and grew up in Houston. Loved, had a great upbringing, although, parents got divorced, and I was raised by my mom, who is an amazing person. And my dad was still in my life. So I got the benefit of learning from both. But my mom was a very, very strong woman and a professional who raised me.
Now, I don't think I realized that you grew up in Houston. For some reason, I thought you grew up in Miami or the Florida area.
Had a short stint in the mid 90s in Miami Beach, South Beach.
Okay, that's what it is.
Yeah, it was a very different time in my life. I looked very different. I had long hair about mid back, had a full beard, and I was a massage therapist by trade at the time. So I've done a lot of different things in my life and have, grown into real estate over the last 20 years. But the first part of my life was very different. I was a mental health worker working in a psychiatric facility, long-term residential, working with emotionally challenged adolescents. I was a therapeutic foster parent as well, working with that same kind of group, boys from 12 to 18 in our home. It was not my personal home. It was a group home. And then I became a massage therapist because honestly, it was a super emotionally rewarding job, not very financially rewarding because we don't pay the people who are helping these kids through very difficult times. We just didn't pay that much. And so to supplement, I actually got my massage license, became a licensed massage therapist. And that's what I was doing in South Beach, Miami in the mid 90s, where that was the center of the universe. Madonna had just moved there. They were filming all sorts of movies there. I saw The Birdcage with Robin Williams and Nathan Lane. I walked by several of the filmings. It was right on Ocean Drive, and that's where I worked.
That's awesome. So we'll talk more about that here in just a few minutes. But who had the biggest impact on your early childhood?
Like many people, my parents, my father was a pretty big finance guy. He actually did real estate, commercial real estate in the mall industry. And he was the senior vice president of real estate and construction for Zales Jewelry, which was the biggest jewelry company in the world. And so a huge, huge role there, written up in who's who of finance. But with that comes a lot of pressure and sometimes some challenges as far as how he communicated with the family. My mom on the other side she was actually a teacher who once divorced, realized that she probably needed to do more, got into the personnel business, finding people jobs at a place called M. David Lowe in Houston, wound up creating her own personnel company. And when that business tanked in the 90s, she actually then at 50 took her profit share from M. David Lowe and put herself through law school at University of Houston Law School, wrote on the law review, and then became a patent attorney eventually with her own business and super successful. And the secret, I think, that I learned most from her was networking. She was part of something called Robwick, which is River Oaks Women's Business Club, and was just an amazing networker and did it at a super high level to be able to go from industry to industry and yet be successful. And like I said, she was badass.
I love it. So, how has your family shaped the person you are today?
Well, I'll get into some family secrets. My father was a super interesting individual. Again, exceeded at the highest level in business, but was also married and divorced 7 times and then engaged to be married when he passed. So you can either look at it as, kind of tragic or that he was the eternal optimist. He was going to get it right eventually. And that shaped me in my life because I learned from his mistake. And I never, ever wanted to get divorced. And so I'm married 27 years to my beautiful wife, Holly. I have 2 amazing children, twins, Elliot and Lily. And, I think that's probably the biggest thing I learned from my father is that, you make decisions in life, right? Being married is not easy for anyone who's married. You know that it's a series of compromise. And what I learned from my dad was that I didn't want to do that. I didn't want to go through that, and I wanted to choose a partner. And so I took a long time to do that. I got married, met my wife when I was 28, got married at 30, and and I never was in a long-term relationship prior to my wife. The longest relationship I had was about 6 months because I know that, I didn't want to get into a relationship that I knew wasn't going to work. And so I waited and I found my wife, and then we waited a long time to have kids. We waited 10 years to have kids, and that was purposeful so we can stabilize our marriage first and then bring kids into the world. So that's something.
No, that's awesome. I appreciate that. See, that's the thing I love about this podcast is you and I've had a lot of conversations, one-on-one conversations, group conversations, but at the end of the day, we didn't really get into it. And that's one of the things I've had and have learned with this form method is, you know, it allows you to have a deeper understanding of what somebody is and what makes them who they are. So, David, with a single mom, are there any family traditions that you guys established early on that you now carry into your adult life? And as we're recording this, we're now in Christmas season. And
So we always decorated the tree together, my mom, my sister, and myself, and we've kind of taken that into our family. And that's, we do Christmas quite a bit here, and part of the reason is that so my wife is a Christmas baby, Holly, born December 20th. We won't say the year. And then
Smart man.
both of my children were born the day after Christmas. And
Wow.
so, because they're
You've got a
twins,
busy month.
days. Within 6 days, I have my wife's birthday, Christmas, and both my children. And so, and my wife being a Christmas baby, it was very, very much a conscious decision that we separate birthday and Christmas for our children, right? Because she kind of
Absolutely.
got caught up with, you know, here's your birthday slash Christmas present.
Hmm.
That's you want to celebrate the birthday and Christmas separately. So we've always had a strong desire to make that separate for our kids. In fact, and it's hard with kids and their friends, the day after Christmas, no one's coming to that party. So we do their birthday, or did when they were younger, with their classmates earlier in December. And then the day after Christmas would be what we call kids and cocktails. So we had a party mostly for our friends when they were younger, and then, their parents' friends and such, they're really good friends, and they would come over and celebrate the day after Christmas, and we would have a kind of a cool little party for, the kids to get together, but also the adults. And so we would celebrate their birthday that way.
That's fantastic. So, growing up with your mom being so accomplished and then your father being so well accomplished in his field, what were some of the lessons that you learned early on to help in your upbringing that you pass on to others in your business?
In both businesses, because I would watch my dad. And again, he's talking with Fred Simon. So Merv Simon and Fred Simon were partners in Simon, the mall development company, right? And the relationship that he built with Fred Simon was one of the reasons why he was very successful and able to get the deals done that others weren't. And in fact, Fred Simon, when my grandfather passed away, Fred Simon came to the funeral of my grandfather, which was crazy. So between my mother's networking and building relationships there, my dad's ability to build that close bond, that's what's really what I took away as kind of the secret and what I pass along to the agents that I mentor. And, I've been doing this 20 years. I've probably mentored, hired, managed over 1,000 agents in Central and South Texas. And the one thing that I tell them that this is all about building relationship within this business. And if you have the ability to build relationship and using a method like you're doing right now with Form to ask these questions, understand the answers so you get to know them better and build relationship that way, but also being able to document that in a CRM so that you can remember these answers and refer back to them. Super important in the business. So yeah,
Yeah.
relationships, everything.
To move into our next letter of the conversation, the O, the occupation. So, for those who may not know you, you know, I purposely don't introduce you who you or what you do. So, tell people who you are, what you do.
I'm a real estate broker. I'm the managing broker of what's called Revel Property Group, and we're a team under EXP. We have about 25 agents on our team. Within that team, I do several different things. I still sling real estate, right? I'm still buying, selling, and doing deals. I am the managing broker for the team. So if someone has questions that they want answered, I will be that reliable source for them to make sure that they are able to operate at the highest level. And so I consider myself available, if not 24/7, well, pretty darn close to it. So I'll always get back to my agents and help them through difficult, challenging situations. And then within that team as well, I'm getting into different type of fractional ownership, development deals. We're put together a pretty strong collaboration. And for me, that's what I love most about real estate is collaboration, is being able to collaborate with different partners, because everyone on in my company is a partner at Revel Property Group. So it's it's been it's been fascinating. It's been a lot of fun.
That's great. So, how did you go from being a long haired, bearded massage therapist in Miami and living the beach life to, fast forward to 20 years ago when you got into real estate? How did you get into real estate? Why real estate?
Sure. And so I was no longer bearded or long haired. And it's interesting. I cut my hair because my grandfather passed away. My grandfather was traditional Italian. He's from Sicily, Palermo. Hated my long hair, hated it. And he passed away in 1995. And so I grabbed my hair and cut it off and laid the ponytail on his grave to honor him because he was a big, big part of my life growing up. That was Pops, and taught me to water ski, taught me to swim, was just a true giving individual. And so now I don't have long hair anymore. I'm actually in Austin, and I wound up getting a job at a place called I was still a massage therapist, Aziz Salon and Day Spa, as a massage therapist, and went from just a massage therapist to managing the spa department to assistant general manager, and then finally vice president of the company. And so I learned my operational skills there. And then I got an email from a good friend of mine who had just joined a real estate company local here in Austin, and they were looking for an operational manager. And I was in transition. I had decided that there was only so much I can do with my two hands as a massage therapist and looking for something different. And so I interviewed with a place called Goldwasser Team Real Estate, Chad Goldwasser, got the job and became his operational manager, and then went on to get licensed because I wasn't licensed at the time, become a sales manager, and then eventually a partner in that company.
That's great. Well, we all love Chad, and that's actually Chad's how you and I got reconnected,
Correct.
and where he just literally sent a text one day saying, David, Austin, Austin, David, y'all need to talk. And we're like, okay, well, if Chad says it, we probably should do it.
And we
And
did.
so what is something, over the last 20 years of being a team lead, a broker, a real estate professional, you've served on boards, you've served in executive leadership with companies. What's something about your industry that people often misunderstand?
What the public doesn't understand is that for the most part, real estate agents wake up unemployed every single day, and that it is one of the easiest low paying jobs there is because you can have a license, call yourself a realtor, and really be a barista at Starbucks, and that's your income, right? One of the hardest high paying jobs there is. And there's no limit to the income that you can make in this business, but you have to work hard. You have to work at times when other people aren't working. So that means weekends and evenings. You have to sacrifice, and you have to continually develop your skill set. I've been doing it 20 years. I still get things where I'm like, I've never heard that before. Real estate is complex. There's a lot of moving parts. And so you have to understand that you are dealing with the largest asset typically that they'll have in their life until they buy their next home. That is an awesome responsibility. And what you do and your knowledge base and your skill set could make them or lose them tens of thousands of dollars. And so it is important and incumbent upon you to be the best realtor that you can be. But this is not an easy business. And like I said, I've interviewed hundreds and hundreds, thousand realtors in my time here. And a lot of them will come in and they'll say, well, I'm a people person. Like, great. That's awesome. You need to like people, right? If you don't like people, it's
Yeah.
really hard to do this business. But there's so much more to what we do than that. And you can change someone's life by building generational wealth. And that's what we do. Most Americans hold their wealth in their homes. For better or for worse, that's kind of how people build wealth and hold wealth. And so it is an awesome responsibility, and it is something that you need to take very, very seriously in educating yourself, and kind of bring it back to what you and Tony do. That's why I'm so grateful is that you invest in our education. You invest, and I'm about to go, and we're in the Christmas season, and I get to go to one of your classes and learn from you on reverse mortgages expert. You're a best-selling novelist. Well, I guess not a novel, but you're a best-selling author in the subject and you're a subject matter expert. So I can't wait to learn. But that's one of the things I want to put in my tool belt is okay, I want to learn more and know more about reverse mortgages. So
Thank you.
kudos to you and thank you for what you do.
Well, thank you very much. What is a challenge that you've had to overcome in your work that you walk away or you walked away from it saying, that was good. I'm going to remember that one.
That's a great question. Well, I like to say I'm 40% therapist, 40% firefighter, and about 20% appraiser. And that's what I do. Although I'm not technically an appraiser, I'm not allowed to say value according to the state of Texas. I do advise on pricing and strategy. So it's funny, I just had an experience with one of my clients, and I had advised them to paint because they had some very bright coloring in their house and they chose not to. And how I solved that is I staged. And so the staging actually made the colors a little bit muted. And then when we got on the market, which I had asked them to get their stuff done a little bit sooner, we didn't get on till August 10th, and that missed the market. We didn't have our second peak. Typically in in
Mhm.
Austin, at least, we have two peaks to real estate, and peak at the end of May, and then you peak at the end of July on August. And we didn't really have our second peak, so we peaked, and then we just slid all the way down. It was just a funky market this year. So we kind of missed the market and they didn't paint and we staged and then they pulled the staging after a month because staging is expensive. So we sat and we sat and we sat. And finally, I convinced them to paint and they did. And then lo and behold, the market cooperated and we got multiple offers. So we got three
That's
offers
great.
on the property. We're closing at the end of this month. They're super happy with me. But yeah, it's challenging. You can, and this is how I operate. I never make decisions for them because you can't, right? It's their home.
Mhm.
I advise them and I strongly advise them. But if they don't take my decisions, I say, okay. But eventually when they do take your advice and then the outcome is positive, it's very rewarding to know that, yeah, this is what should have happened before, but better late than never.
Well, one of the things that you mentioned, the awesome responsibility of handling a family's most expensive asset. So, hearing you talk over the last 30 minutes or so, you were, a mental health professional, you help people, you're now helping people navigate the chaotic world of real estate. Where did that need or that desire to help people?
I think it's innately from my parents and my upbringing. I think in my family, in the family dynamics that I had, I was always the peacemaker between either, early on, mom and dad, later between either my mom, my sister, or my dad and my sister. I was always the one in the middle trying to create that peace. And so it led me down the path of really enjoying helping. And, uh it's been my passion really to help people in every single career that I've had, whether it be at a psychiatric hospital, helping kids deal with, when they were the residents there were 90% of them sexually or physically abused, helping as a massage therapist. And, I've got a very holistic view of healing. And I think people hold their emotional pain in their bodies and it manifests as physical pain. It's in helping them release that. And, I've had grown men cry on my massage table because, it was something in there that was an emotional pain that was just manifesting itself physically.
Mhm.
And then, my role in real estate has really been to help agents. And that's what I've done for these 20 years, right? Besides selling and helping clients, which I really like, my true passion is helping agents be successful at this business. And so I mentor and I'm a mentor for EXP officially. I mentor the newer agents on my team. And then giving back to the industry in different ways, whether it's being volunteering at the Austin Board of Realtors or volunteering in different capacities for different organizations, whether it be Easter Seals or the Meadowy Goodman Foundation, which I'm a board member of. It's the greatest, I guess, joy that I have is to be able to help people.
Well, you also volunteer your time and intellectual property with the classes that you teach for us. No, and I love it, and that's one of the things that I think that you and I have clicked so quickly is just the fact that there is no intention to us wanting to help people. It was true, it's natural, where we just love helping people and, you know, become a better agent, become a better
Yeah.
parent, loved
Right.
one, however we need. We're there for them. So let's shift into the next letter, the R,
Okay.
the recreation.
Sure.
So when you're not working, what do you do? What do you
What is
love to
that?
do?
What is when? Oh, when I'm not working?
Yeah, yeah, when you're not working.
When is that? I'm a
Yeah.
realtor. I'm always
Real
working.
estate, twenty four
I'm just
seven,
kidding.
365.
I do take time. Family is a big passion, and to be able to take my daughter fishing, take my other child who has developed in their own art form to performances, and my wife and I remembering that, oh, by the way, we're not just parents, we're husband and wife. And so we try and take time. So that's, when there's work and there's family, and those are the two biggest draws of my time in my life. The other thing I have is I'm an avid sports fan. Before I met my wife, I would say you know, it was basketball, it was football, NFL, college, baseball. I watch a lot of sports. I'm a passionate sports fan because my family also deserves that. I've pared that down. I'm pretty much a diehard Longhorn fan, so I do have a lot of Longhorn paraphernalia. I do have a lot of passion for both college football and college basketball, college baseball, and I do try and get some time to watch that. But other than that, sports, I'll read and I like to write. I write poetry and I write lyrics to songs that no one hears, but it makes my day a little bit more joyful. But I really focus on family and work and the occasional Longhorn football game.
Being from New York, are you Yankee fan, Mets fan? Are you just neither? Who are your teams?
Originally, it was Mets and Jets. Those are not easy teams to root for.
No, I was about to say, I mean, you're asking for the punishment.
I know. Well, so I grew up in Houston though, so I became an Astros fan, and I can remember, the days of Enos Cabell and Jose Cruz, Art Howe in our outfield. So I'm an Astros fan when it comes to baseball now. I am a Texans fan when it comes to the NFL, and we just beat Kansas City last night. Very, very excited about that. Rockets fan when it comes to basketball. So growing up in Houston, I adopted those teams
Of course.
because they're much easier to root. The early 90s, the Warren Moon years with the Smurfs as wide receivers, and that was a fun team to root for. The Rockets had their two championships in the mid 90s. But, the Astros went on a historic run over the last, you know, 7 or 8 years. It's been an incredible joy to watch them. But if you're asking me where my passion lies, it's the Texas Longhorns, and I think we're in good hands. Crystal Conte has done an amazing job. I mean, our women's basketball team, phenomenal. Football in Sark, I trust, and I do believe that he's got the program where it should be. And we'll see what Sean Miller has to offer in the coming years. But yeah,
Well, awesome.
the passion is with the Longhorns. I watch sports and I like sports, but the passion's with the Longhorns.
So let's talk about your other passion, your
Okay.
passion for music. Where did
Yeah.
that love for music?
I've always, I think I mentioned I write poetry that turned into song lyrics when I moved to Miami. The first gentleman I met in Miami, even before I moved there, was a gentleman by the name of Brad Berman, who was in a band called Poetic Justice, the band was before the movie. So there's that. But I met him like on the beach in Miami Beach, my first visit there. And then I looked him up when I moved there, and we became good friends and started writing together. And so even in high school, I wrote a song that was performed in the high school talent show with a good friend of mine, Christine Mills, who's an amazing jazz singer in Houston, even to this day. And so I always wanted to be a singer. I unfortunately can't carry a tune, nor do I have a lot of musical ability, but I like to write, and so I that probably was where this started. And then I actually, when I was, and you know this, but I'll share it. I started volunteering for Easter Seals, and Easter Seals of Central Texas. And if people don't know, it's the Easter Seals is the largest disability services nonprofit in the United States. And so they had 12, 13 programs, all to help people with disabilities live more independent lives. And so I started there. I got suckered into being the committee chairman of a gala. One of my agents just suckered me. And so when I went to figure out, okay, what does Easter Seals do? Because I knew the name, but I didn't know. I toured the facilities. I saw what they did to help people with disabilities, and it became a passion of mine. Um, to tie this back into music, I got on the board, and my first year on the board, they decided to do a Dia de los Muertos concert. And so I helped with that concert every single year. I was on the board. When I cycled off, I was chairman of the board for about 5 years, and then cycled off. They decided to stop doing it, and I with a partner of mine, Sally DeCellis, who's also a realtor here locally, took on that that burden of running this concert. And so, honestly, we've been running it, except for COVID, 14 straight years. And it's one of the longest running shows in Austin. Right now, it's called Un Dia, which is Unity Through Music. Un Dia is aspirational, one day, and really, it's about having all different genres of music represented on one stage and one night, to one day bring all these different communities together through music. And so that's what Un Dia is about.
Love it. So, what impact has the concert had so far? And what do you hope becomes of it in the future?
It's a good question. So we've actually, Easter Seals was the original beneficiary, but we also had HAM as a beneficiary, the American Cancer Society, and then most recently a local charity that we raised money for, which is called Pauliska's Rescue and Reunite. Some are police, and some of you who have been in real estate long enough knew her father, David Pavliska, this amazing realtor, broker, statesman in the industry. He passed about 4 years ago, but she has this charity where um, if a dog is found on the road, or someone just finds a dog somewhere or a cat, she'll take it in, foster it, and find a new home. First, she'll try and reunite that dog with its owner. And if she can't, she'll foster it and then rescue it and make sure it doesn't go to a shelter that's going to kill it. So it's an amazing charity. It's called Pauliska, Pawliska, Rescue and Reunite.
Well, we will definitely put that charity and any other charity that you recommend in the show notes as well, so that way people can, obviously go and check them out. Obviously, check out India. Now, you guys just wrapped up your second concert benefits of the year.
Yeah.
Is it normally twice a year, or do you typically
No,
do it once a year?
it's not. That was kind of an accident. We actually applied for and won a City of Austin grant, which was great. The Austin Music Fund does some awesome things, but one of the quirks we did not know about at the time is that you cannot raise money for a charity using that. So what we're able to do is raise awareness with the first concert in May, and then use that money in May to put on the actual concert at Dia de los Muertos. It was October 30th at Sea Boys, and it was, like I said, it was an amazing night of music. I also actually am involved in another. I'm on the board of a place called the Meadow E. Goodman Foundation. It's a new 501(c)(3 named in honor of Meadow Goodman, who was an amazing musician and child, and unfortunately lost her battle with mental illness and committed suicide at 15. And so I got introduced to her father, Greg Goodman, through the PR person who was working on Undia with me. And unbeknownst to Greg and me at the time, once we got introduced, my child Elliot and Meadow were good friends. And I'd met Meadow. And so Meadow's passing was um, a huge impact on my life. My child struggled with mental illness as well. And it's a tough thing to go through as a parent, and depression, anxiety, self-harm. It is so challenging as a parent to experience in that. And then to have a child lose their battle like Meadow did was devastating in our lives, because my child was very, very close with Meadow. And so when I met Greg and we kind of figured this out, and he knew of Elliot, Elliot continued to post on Meadow's social media accounts and really positive things. And it was important for me to see what I could do to help. And I did, and the first year was very successful. And then he asked me to join the board, because the board, Meadowfest is the name of the concert. We'll be holding it again. It's held in August in honor of the month that Meadow took her life. But Meadow E. Goodman Foundation, we're going to be working to do more, right? The Meadowfest is to drive awareness and raise money for the Sims Foundation, as well as Out Youth. Meadow was LGBTQ plus. My child is as well. But what our mission is really teenage mental health. And so we're establishing funds. We're going to establish scholarships for kids who have attempted suicide or had ideation and have come through the other side. We're going to grant scholarships to them to be able to talk about it, as long as they're willing to be public and talk about it, because it is one of the biggest challenges we have in this world. And it's affecting both boys and girls and those who identify differently equally. It is so challenging. And so we're also working with the government. Vicki Goodwin is one of our benefactors who we're working with to bring together government and mental health professionals and academia to create a task force to try and tackle this problem. One of the challenges, I'm sorry, I'm on a little soapbox here,
Oh,
but
I
one of
love
the
it. Right
challenges
ahead.
is that right now, the way that, and I've experienced this myself, the way that it works is that identify a serious mental illness problem, and then it's a psychiatrist, medication, therapist. And the medications are either Zoloft or whatever they choose, and it's not good enough. We don't have the answers that we need, and we can't treat this as just a monolith problem. All these kids are different, and we need to figure out what works for different kids. We need to have different mechanisms, and that's why I'm so grateful for organizations like the Sims Foundation, who helps musicians with mental illness, or Out Youth, which are helping the youth in the LGBTQ plus community. We need to come up with solutions that really solve the problem, because honestly, there, but for the grace of God go I, right? My child was on the edge. There was ideation there. And, as a parent, one of the scariest things I've ever experienced is that get a call from my wife, who just talked to the psychiatrist who had talked to my child. And she's like, you need to go and get a safe. We need to lock up all the medication in our house. Everything, Tylenol, everything. That's scary to go through. And again, our child made the decision and got the help they needed. And thankfully we had the resources to provide that, because insurance doesn't cover it. And we were able to get up the other side. And Greg, who had a bunch of resources as well, his child just didn't make it. That's why every August 12th, I'll go to Mount Bonnell and I will celebrate Meadow's life with Greg and his family and all their friends. It is so important. And so we're doing work to help that particular cause, because it is our kids are the most important thing for the future of this country, for the future of the world. because we didn't inherit the world from our parents. We're borrowing it from our children.
Right before we talk about your motivation, you know, what does it feel like, David, to blend your professional world with the creative and helpful?
I love it. To be able to, and especially this last one deal when, Summer is in the real estate industry, I was able to bring this cause that helps someone in the real estate industry to fruition to help. Again, I'm a pet owner. I've got two dogs. I got two cats. So that was really, really satisfying. As far as the other things that I'm involved in, there's cause marketing, right? That's every company does. So every time I am part of an event, I typically am a sponsor of that event as well. And so I put my money where my mouth is. But to be able to give back in a musical way, which, as I've expressed, is a passion of mine, it's awesome. I'm very blessed to be able to do it.
Well, I had a chance to go to your spring, early summer concerts, and I've gone to a lot of benefit concerts, or just concerts in general. And how many artists did you have play
18.
during? You had 18 artists play in what, 2 hours?
It was about 2.5, 3 hours. So yeah, and I will say that I was a promoter of the event, but Alex Vallejo of the band Vallejo was our musical producer. He put together the show, and he put together an amazing show. I was able to bring a band out of Miami. Brad, who I mentioned before, I was able to fly him in with his new band, Stardust One, and they played at Antone's, which again blew them away to be able to play at such an iconic event, and then to be able to have these artists like Patricia Vaughn, who is a kind of a legend, as well as these new and upcoming artists. And it was everything from blues to rock and roll to rap to Latinx, all these different genres of music all coming on stage and doing songs. And I think the audience got the value.
Well, and you had Mama Duke come
Mama
out,
Dude.
who just, you know, she played one song and I was like, "Oh, wow." And then at the end, she says, "Yeah, I'm headed off next week to America's Got Talent." I'm like, "Oh, okay, that's pretty cool." Next thing I know, she's getting golden buzzer and she's making to the finals and she was a finalist. So it's been pretty cool to see, her trajectory. So, David, as we come to the end of our form alphabet, we come into the motivation. So what's something you're working towards right now, I can't talk, professionally or personally?
For me, it's professionally, it's expanding my scope of business. I'm very fortunate to work with some really good partners that have come on, Yannick Torres, Sonia Cunningham, who have come on to the team, and we're working um, to really expand not only nationally but globally. We're working with different companies. We've got a fractional ownership model with a group called Sono Homes, which we're helping them purchase in Florida and Texas, as well as they've got international play with short-term rentals. Again, it's fractional ownership in short-term rentals in Cartagena and Medellin in Colombia, as well as Tulum at Spain. So that really excites me, motivates me to do better. We're working with another gentleman, and his goal is to purchase 10,000 homes in the next 6 to 8 years, with a component of it being owner financing for the Latin community who are maybe unbanked and aren't able to get loans. And so a portion of it is going to be that, a portion of it is going to be maybe lease to own, and then another portion is going to be straight rental. And to build that portfolio and help him, super exciting. So I'm experiencing development and investment on a whole nother level right now, and that really motivates me to to do more and grow.
So this is going to be a very loaded question, and I'm sorry for it. But how do you define your success?
People I help, the people I influence, the people I it's a good question. It's and I've got a partner of mine that is more financially motivated than I am, um, and would always, I guess, slightly ridicule me for my genuine desire to help people. But really, if I can help someone become successful and we have success together, then that is my ultimate definition of success.
We're going to jump right into another loaded question of what kind of legacy, David, do you want to leave behind?
I was a good person. At you know when when I pass, because we all will, the people who knew me, my kids will know that in my heart I truly cared, and if I can leave that legacy, lived a good life.
And finally, if you had a time machine
Hmm.
and it took you back in time to your senior year of high school,
Hmm.
and you can give yourself some advice, what would that be?
Get started in real estate a lot sooner and invest in Austin. If we had, hindsight's 2020, but um, invest in 78704 as soon as you can. That would have been my advice to me.
So, David, as we wrap up here, what's one book, quote, poem, piece of advice that has really stuck, or
So
song?
there's an author, Hal Elrod, who actually I think is now a realtor, and I think he's local. But he did The Miracle Morning, and I got turned on to that by a good friend of mine in Houston, Texas. It really changed my life. So if there was one piece of advice, it's like take advantage of morning, right? Get your stuff done, get your motivation done, whether you write or you pray or you read the Bible, whatever it is that really spiritually enriches you, get that done first thing. And then if that's all you do all day, you still had a hell of a day.
So true. One of my favorites, and he co-authored his Miracle Morning for real estate professionals
Yeah.
with Michael Mayer, who wrote my favorite book, Seven Levels of Communication. And Seven Levels is a book that I've read multiple times a year, year over year for the last 15 years. David, who is someone in your life that you think people should know?
I will tell you someone that I think is misunderstood. And it's super interesting. Having mentored under him, you know him very, very well. He introduced us as what our relationship is now as Chad Goldwasser. Um, he's such an amazing man. Also, probably a misunderstood man. I think, he's been very public about, some of the stuff that he's gone through, his challenges, but to find sobriety, to find his faith, to find better relationships with his children. Now it's inspiring to see. Again, like I said, he is a polarizing character in this town because he's been around for quite a bit. Quite honestly, we had a partnership breakup that was pretty rough. And yet, we found each other again as friends and partners later. And I just want to say that he is one of the most inspiring, motivating men and someone that, along with my dad, I consider one of the biggest influences in my life because he taught me what a positive attitude meant and how it will affect your life every single day.
Oh, yeah. I mean, Chad he's a legend, not a legend in his own mind, but a pure legend in the real estate
And in
industry
his own mind.
a- and in his own mind, let's be honest. David, very last question. What's the one thing you hope listeners take away from our conversation?
So I think overall that the best possible use of a person's life is to help others. If you can help others, and I think our good friend Zig Ziglar said it best, you can get anything that you want in this life if you just help enough other people get what they want. And I take it to heart. And I truly believe that if you help others, whatever you do, you're going to be successful.
Amen to that. On the top of my education website, we have it listed right there. It's what we believe all day, every day. It's what we strive for. And that's one of the reasons why we started Impact is we just want to help people and we know it's going to come back to us. And needless to say, it absolutely has done that. Well, David, thank you so much for being on
Thank
for
you.
my cast. And this has been an absolute pleasure. Appreciate your openness, your honesty, and just having a conversation with us. So, for people that want to reach out to you, where can they find you?
So Instagram at Revel, that's Revel Dave. I'm Revel Dave on Instagram. My phone number, if you want to talk, I'm happy to talk this business with anybody. It's 512-638-6585. My email is david.schneider at revelpg.com.
We'll have all of his contact information there in the show notes. David, thank you so much. And I'm sure I'll see you. Actually, I'll see you in a couple of days at
Your
class.
Dave.
But
I can't
other
wait.
than that, we will see you around. Please follow Dave on social media. That way you can find out if you want to sell real estate, you can contact him. If you want to join a new team because you're not getting the mentorship from your current broker or team lead, David is a great resource for that as well. And also follow him for all of his upcoming benefits concerts. David, thank you so much.
Thank you, my friend.
All right. Big thanks to David for sitting down and having a real conversation today. This episode is a reminder that when you slow down and actually listen, you learn a lot more about people than what's on the surface. If this conversation resonated with you, do me a favor, like, subscribe, and share this episode with someone who values relationship, purpose, and impact. And if you're navigating a home purchase, a refinance, or even just trying to make sense of your options in today's market, that's what my team and I do every single day. I'm Austen Smith with Barton Creek Lending Group, and we lead with strategy, education, and clarity so you can make a confident decision, not rushed ones. All of our information is in the show notes if you want to connect. Thanks again for listening. And remember, 2 ears, 1 mouth. Listen more, talk less, and have impactful conversations. We'll see you on the next one.